Tardiness, we're in a new space today and it's a little tricky and downtown traffic is always a little tricky. So apologies for the delayed start. So glad that each of you all are here. Big welcome to those of us who are in the room here in Nashville. And for those of you who are joining us online in Teams, welcome to our Council on Youth Justice meeting. This is our last meeting for this year, and we're just grateful that you all are here with us on today. For those of you, well, thank you, Wendy. Let's talk about the most important things first. For those of restroom facilities are on the other side of this wall. So if you go through this little entryway, it's almost diagonal here, you'll find the restrooms there. For those of you joining us online, please mute yourselves. We will, when it's time for questions and answers, we will ask you to drop your questions in the chat. You coming off of mute will distort things here in the room. So we're asking you to please keep yourselves on mute. Want to remind us, and I have a slide for that, but we'll roll with it.
Oh, thank you, microphone echo. Now can you see?
Can you hear
It was muted up here. Good.
Hey, Teams people, thank y'all for letting us know that we were not, didn't hear us in the space. So let me just start over our folks and teams to say welcome. We're so glad that you are here with us on today. I was beginning to talk about who we are, what we do. So we are all advocacy. We're all of the people. We're a small, non-partisan state agency. And when I say small, I mean less than 30 staff, small. So we're little, but we've had a big punch. And a lot of the things that we do are these. You fix one thing and then something else goes wrong. So this is what we do. I like to call these like 4 buckets. So we're looking at data and insights. We do a lot of monitoring of child and youth indicators. We collaborate. A large part here today is around collaboration. We bring people together. We convene stakeholders and legislators and family members and community members. And we want people to come together and realize changes. We say often that state government is not where the answers are. And so collaboration, we're really big about. we're so big on policy advocacy. What are those things that we're doing to help move the needle around youth issues with, and on the political side of the house? And then raising public awareness. Again, that collaboration awareness piece really kind of go hand in hand. It's an opportunity for us to bring to the forefront those issues that are involving our young people, and finding out ways that we can help and work together to be able to not just talk about it, but how can we resolve some of those things? So that's who we are as an agency, and that's what we do. And again, if you're new to this space, specifically around CYJ, or the Council on Youth Justice Issues, it really is doing a lot about what I just said. It's about bringing people together to talk about issues that affect youth who have been impacted by the system. We don't call them juveniles. We are intentional about not calling them juveniles, because juveniles has this negative kind of connotation. And so you will hear us over and over talk about youth justice. And so it's about bringing folks together to talk about, these are the issues that are facing our young people, and these are the things that we can do collectively around that. So we educate people, and that's one of the things I'm excited about with us doing today. We're going to talk about something that as a council, we've not talked about before. So we've come to educate people around some of those issues, and then coordinating our efforts. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are people out there that are doing the work, and we're going to hear that from our Chattanooga partners. And so if we got people that are already doing the work, then how can we look at what they're doing and perhaps make that work on some level in the areas where we are? So that's who we are. That's what we do. That's that recording notice I mentioned. We're recording that are online. Again, we're not going to do anything devious with the recording, but if you don't want to be recorded, feel free to turn your camera off. So this is what today's going to look like. I'm going to give I just welcome you. We're going to do some introductions. For those of you who are joining us in Teams, and I think Wendy has already dropped that in the chat, but we're going to ask you to introduce yourself in the chat. We want to know what your name is. We want to know the agency or organization that you're working with. We want to know where you are. Sometimes you might give us your name, but we don't know that name. And so, not your name, but your agency, we may not know where that is. So tell us where in the state you're located. I'm going to ask the folks in the room to do the same thing in a minute, but for those of you who are, if you join with other people, if there are other people in your room, in your office, in your space, please ensure that their names are noted in the chat too, because we want to be sure that we're capturing everybody who's joining us today. Our executive director, Richard Kennedy, is in the house, and he's going to come and give us some opening remarks, along with Ms. Lawless Mitchell, who is from the Davidson County Mayor's Office. And then I will come back and kind of set the stage, like have this topic of credible messengers. We have this conversation around violence interrupters. And so I want to set the stage for us about like, we've been having this conversation. So I'll come back after your remarks and talk about that. And then I will be happy to have joining us today from the Chattanooga's Office of Community Safety, Office of Community. I got it. Office of Community Safety, Gun Violence Prevention. That's hard. They're talking. This is not even the whole team. I think there are other members of the team that aren't even here with us, and so but they brought the cavalry in today, and we're just excited that they're going to come and talk to us. And so joining us will be Christopher Sands. He goes by Chris. He's the executive director. Ms. Deborah Maddox, who's the community outreach coordinator. Tony Rogers serves as the public safety coordinator. Latasha Lindsay is the victim service advocate. Nate Carter and Ricky Harper serve as violence interrupters. I just like that name. I like saying it. I can't wait for them to come and share specifically what it is that they do. And then we'll have a time for questions and answers. So they're going to do their presentation. We're going to ask you to save your questions until they're done, and we'll have a section specifically for your Q&A. And then we'll talk about if there are youth justice partners in the room, folks that are doing the work with young people, want to hear from them, want to hear from you to see if there's some updates that you have for us. And then I never like to walk away from this space without reflecting. It's good to hear all that stuff, but then want to talk about the now what, right? And so we'll do a little bit of that, and then we'll adjourn. And I promise that even though we started 15 minutes late, we're still going to get you out on time. So Richard, before you come, and I apologize for making you get up real fast.
That's good.
But before you come, we're gonna ask people in the space. We've asked our partners online to drop their info in the chat. Now we're gonna ask folks in the space to tell us who you are, where you're from. You may not work for an agency, maybe you're a community member here, on today, but introduce yourself to us. And there's a mic, thank you, Corey, there's a mic out there. And we're asking you to use the mic simply so that the folks online can hear you.
Corey Field, Advisor for Children and Families with the Tennessee Commission on Children. Central Office.
Chris Sands, Executive Director of Community Safety and Other Office in the Health, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Community Outreach Coordinator. I also am from the City of Chattanooga, Office of Community Health.
Dave Carter, Office of Community Health.
Office of Community Health. Victim Services.
Peter Harper, Violence and Interrupting, Office of Community Health, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Herb Rogers, Safety Coordinator, Community Health, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
I'm going to disrupt and not be from that area. My name is Monique Jenkins. I at Tennessee Voices and the local national.
Real best. I'm the manager of Community Safety and Gun Violence Prevention in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
My name is Michael Greenis, and I'm a community member right here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Good afternoon, Teresa Sykes, Compliance Monitor with the Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth.
Hi, I'm Zoe Jamel. I'm with Disability Rights Tennessee.
Richard Kennedy with the Commission on Children and Youth.
I'm Torvis Gardner, I'm a community member in Nashville. I'm here with
What's up, y'all? I'm Mike Floss. I'm the Arts and Culture Director at the Southern Movement Committee and right here in Nashville, Tennessee.
TV show, how they compare that people to that platform, tell their story.
Please.
Hi, I'm Wendy Pickering, Grant Contract Monitor with TCCY here in Nashville.
Thank you all so much. And y'all reminded me as y'all were introducing yourself that I didn't really tell y'all what I serve as the Youth Justice Director for the Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth. So thank you all so much. I am going to yield the floor now to our Executive Director, person of Richard Kennedy, and he's going to come and give us some opening remarks.
Thanks, Linda. As I said, and Linda said, I'm Richard Kennedy, and I have the great privilege to serve as the Executive Director of the Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth. Very much appreciate Linda providing a bit of an overview of the work that we do at the agency. We're a little bit unusual in that in state government, in that we are governed by a board / commission of folks that provide the broad oversight, guidance, and direction for the work that we do as the agency. And as I was telling our friends and colleagues from Chattanooga, I'm so pleased they're here because the current chair of our commission is Judge Rob Filial, who is the juvenile court judge in Hamilton County. So I was kind of half joking, telling them to please tell Judge Filial that this was a great meeting and I need a raise. So we'll see what happens with that. But I especially want to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us this morning. For those of you that drove in, thank you for leaving early. For those of you that are coming from other places in the city, thank you for navigating the traffic to be able to get here. It's never, for me personally, never fun to drive into Nashville or around Nashville. I also want to thank Linda and all of the folks on the Commission Chief Justice team for all of their hard work and kind of putting together the agenda and handling all of the logistics with putting this meeting together. Things like this don't just happen. And so I very much appreciate the thought, the planning, and the attention to details that you all put into this. So thank you. So one of the things at the Commission on Children and Youth is I always kind of think in kind of a couple of different buckets. One is, what does the law say we can and should do as an organization? What do the legislators expect from us? Two is really, what is our lane? And then three is kind of, what is the impact of the work that we do? So at the Commission on Children and Youth, we are tasked with serving, and this is a mouthful, at something that's known as the State Advisory Group in Tennessee for the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, which is a part of the Department of Justice at the federal government level. And in 1974, Congress passed an act called the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act that really outlines how we're to treat kids in secure confinement in Tennessee and really look at the youth justice system as a whole and make recommendations and try to move the youth justice system in a way that improves outcomes for the young people, for the families and things like that that are involved with the youth justice system. And when I think about youth justice, I think my brain splits into a couple of different directions. So one is, we know that in Tennessee and across the country, there's an increase focused on youth crime and on youth justice. We know that the intensity or the media around some of the crimes that are being committed or allegedly being committed are really raising to some high levels of media attention. However, there's a bit of a disconnect. There's a lot of attention around this, but we're seeing youth crime decrease across the decade. So when I have the opportunity to talk about youth justice, there are two things that I think personally are important and that I believe that I always want to share. So when we think about youth justice, I kind of think about it kind of like a three-legged stool. And then I think we have to have accountability for our young folks. I think we have to focus on community safety. And I also think that we have to really focus on the rehabilitation and the treatment of young folks who are involved with the youth justice system. We know from data and research that the vast majority of young people who come in contact with the youth justice system, it's a kind of a one and done kind of situation. That was my experience. So if you guys want to talk about in the 1980s, making really bad decisions about throwing eggs at police cars, I'm the man to talk with you about. And through some accountability measures and family community support, my life went in a very different direction than some of our other young folks. So I think we have to think about that as well. I think the other thing that I truly believe is that when we're talking about our children and youth in Tennessee, it's very easy to love and to think about wrapping support and service around our young people who were abused or who were neglected. And I think that we as a society throw a lot of money in that space, rightfully so. But what I would say is that our young folks who are justice involved, many of those young people are the exact same kids. And so we can have a young person that's brought into custody on the child welfare side that, God forbid, makes a really bad decision and gets pushed to the youth justice side. And all of a sudden, people's brains start switching gears of they're somehow miraculously a different child. And I just don't believe that to be true. And so again, with kind of the concept of community safety, accountability, and treatment and rehabilitation, I think that's really where we have the opportunities to focus our time, our attention, and our resources. And I'm so happy to see all of you here who are doing that. I think one of the kind of quotes that lives in my head is attributed to an African proverb, and it says, "The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its heat." And so I think that is so, so true. So now that I've finished my preaching and my sermon to the choir, again, appreciate you guys being here. And there are a couple of updates there that I want to share with you about some work that's coming out of the commission and some things that I want you to be on the lookout for and put on your calendar. So one of the first things is that one of the responsibilities that we have at the commission is to do an annual State of the Child in Tennessee report. That report's an incredibly comprehensive report, and it focuses on as many things that impact children and youth and outcomes that we're seeing in those spaces that you can imagine. We look at child welfare, we look at juvenile crime, we look at how much it costs to have housing in Tennessee, we look at education outcomes, health outcomes, mental health outcomes, adverse experiences, and all kind of thinking about as many different areas or domains as possible. So that report is required. We're required to submit that report to the governor and the members of the General Assembly and to the state depository libraries by December 31st of each year. So we are definitely on track to meet that date. Right now, where we are in the process is that we give the governor's office and the commissioners of the child serving departments a month to sit with that report before it's released publicly for a couple of things. One is we don't want to do advocacy by ambush. We want everyone to know exactly what we're seeing. And then two is to really be able to be some accountability partners for us. If there's some more current data or if there's some wrong data that's in the report, they have the opportunity to weigh in with that. We are going to publicly release that report on January the 9th. So be on the lookout for that. Just kind of tease a little bit with the report. In reading and editing the report, it's always a bit of an emotional roller coaster for me. So I'll look at one section of the report and read it, and I think, gosh, we are doing some really good work in Tennessee in this space. You know, we should be really proud to be Tennesseans because we're seeing the outcomes of the investments in that space. And then I'll turn the page and I'm like, golly, we've got so much work to do in this space. And so it's kind of an opportunity to realize, and the report is a way to celebrate the success that we're seeing as a state and really kind of highlighting what we want to see more of. And yet at the same time, continuing to share the data around where we have opportunities for improvement in that space. Many of you will remember that for many, many years, decades really, the commission served as the Annie Casey Foundation's Kids Count partner in Tennessee. And so a couple of years ago, the foundation made the decision that they wanted to move the Kids Count partnerships out of state government entities and put them in independent standalone organizations. So the foundation made the decision to move the work to our friends and colleagues at the Sycamore Institute in Tennessee. And they're doing great work with the Kids Count project. But one of the things that we knew from the very start of that conversation is that we as the commission have a role in being able to make as much data as easily accessible as possible for all of our colleagues across the state to use in the myriad of ways that it's used, whether it's grant writing, whether it's looking at data to make program decisions, things like that. And so during the last year, Kylie Graves on our team with our data and communications folks have worked really hard to create a new data dashboard that we will upload all of the data that we collect for all of the myriad reports that we do so folks can access it. So when we release the State of the Child report publicly on January 9th, we're also going to share the link and do some media attention around this dashboard. The dashboard is called Future, and I'm ashamed I didn't look before I got up here, but there's a tagline that goes with that, and it's something like, tracking success, measuring opportunity, or something like that. But you guys will be able to have access to that on January 9th. Now, as with anything that we do, I would ask that when you guys get in there and start playing with it, if you run into challenges or if you think there's something that's a little wonky or weird with it, just let us know and we'll start to try to fix those and make it even better as we move along. The other thing that I want you to be on the lookout for is that one of the other responsibilities that we have that's not directly youth justice related, but I think it's interesting for all of those of you who work directly with children, youth, and families, is that the legislature has tasked us with coordinating the work of something that's known as the Second Look Commission. And the Second Look Commission is a statutorily defined group of folks who will come together throughout the year, and they will review a random sample of cases of kids who have 2 or more indicated incidences of severe physical or sexual abuse. And really what they're looking at is, if we knew a kid was hurt one time, how on earth did it have it happen a second time? And where are there gaps in services? Where are the balls dropped? Where are there cracks in the system? Things like that. That group submits an annual report with recommendations, and that report and recommendations have to be submitted by December 31st as well. And they're well on their way to being able to meet that deadline. That group is led by just some amazing folks. Representative Mary Littleton from the Dixon area, Senator Ed Jackson from Jackson, and other legislators over the course of time have participated. But those legislators really provide some phenomenal leadership for that group. And I'm always excited to be able to see the recommendations in the report and how that translates into legislative or different policy action for that group. So be on the lookout for that report that will be coming as well. Legislature comes back in January. And so, with some of our friends and colleagues, they dread when the legislature comes back. I think that, we always have a little bit of excitement around that as well, because it's an opportunity to use new data and new research to have conversation with legislators and basically, once again, have another bite at the apple of trying to be able to look at those financial investments or those policy decisions that improve the outcomes that we all want to see happen. Another, and lastly, one of the larger things we do at the commission is organize and host an event that's called Children's Advocacy Days. Children's Advocacy Days this year will be on March 11th here in Nashville. And this year we are very focused, and the theme is going to be around technology, social media, artificial intelligence, and what that is doing for our young people or how that's hurting our young people, and really thinking about and learning from experts around strategies that we can mitigate those challenges with. I cannot read tea leaves, but I expect from some conversation I have had with legislators that there will be some legislation around technology, phones, things like that for our young people that will be heard and discussed this legislative season. So again, thank you all so much for the opportunity to talk with you a little bit. I appreciate Linda and you all. For those of you that celebrate, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. For those of you who do not celebrate, I hope you enjoy time laying on your couch in your pajamas, watching your favorite movie, traveling, reading a book, whatever it is that you do this time of the year. So as always, thank you all so much for everything you do for the young people in Tennessee. Your work is the calling that you each have is incredibly noble. And if no one has told you how much you're appreciated, I want to be the person that does that today. So thank you all.
So much, Richard. Next up, you all, and I'm gonna apologize to Dr. Watisha. Dr. Watisha Lawless Mitchell went to the location that we were originally supposed to be at today. And so that's the reason for her delay, but she is here with us today, and I would like to yield the floor as one of our city officials for her to come and give you greetings on today.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. How are you? Please forgive my tardiness. But yeah, I didn't update my calendar. But as she said, my name is Watisha Lawless Mitchell. I'm Director of Children and Youth Initiatives in the Mayor's Office. And I'm very excited to be here. One of our main priorities is ensuring that the well-being of our children are at the forefront of everything that we do. And so my position was actually transformed from an educational policy position to one of a programmatic position. And so the aim was to address adverse childhood experiences that our children face and also diminishing barriers that are associated with that. And our main way of doing that is to ensure that they have access to opportunities and to resources. And you may have heard or may not have heard that we're setting up a new Office of Youth Safety, and we have Mike Floss in the back. We've worked together on that, and we're very excited about that. But that shows you our commitment to this work and ensuring that all children are well. And I'm very excited to hear about the work from Chattanooga. I was a community superintendent in Hamilton County before I was in this position, and I had the Midtown schools. So tell them I said hello. But I'm so honored to be here with you and to learn from you, and I look forward to partnering and working with you all. So have a good time.
Hamilton County.
Elementary, Orchard Knob, Dalewood, Brent, Hardy, Harrison. I didn't hear. Hey, Wilborn?
No.
Wilborn.
Cool beans. Thank you so much. So for those of you who have not eaten, it looks like food's gonna be put away. Well, even if you have eaten and you want to eat some more, we encourage you to eat some more. We're gonna put that food away in just a little bit. And so please make yourselves at home, and go back and grab some more goodies. So as I mentioned before, I want to take just a few moments before we bring our special guests up to talk about why are we here? Why do we need to talk about this thing called credible centers? And so I start here. I started thinking about this yesterday. So you grab your dictionary and you open it up and you look for credible and you look for synonyms as it relates to credible. And these are some of the things you're going to see. To be credible is to be convincing. It's to be capable of persuading people, worthy of confidence, capable of being believed, worthy of other people's trust. You think credible, you think reliable, you think can be counted. And yet in this country, in this world, in this space that we often find ourselves in, these aren't descriptors or adjectives that we normally put with people who have criminal justice involvement. And I'm gonna ask you, I know our folks on camera or on Teams aren't gonna be able to hear you, but I'm gonna ask you in the audience and on Teams to participate, what are words that we use when we're talking about people who have been justice impacted? What are some things you've heard?
You say just impact, are you saying people have their time, or you saying people?
So when I say justice impact, it could be all of that. When I say justice impacted, I was primarily thinking people who have been touched by the criminal justice system, whether that's you were arrested, somebody was convicted, somebody's been detained, incarcerated, all of that. Mental health, okay. Criminal. Yeah, but trouble. Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people, whether we are saying it about somebody, because sometimes, we don't use those words, right? But we listen while other people are using those words. People who have been impacted by systems are often not seen as credible. And so I wanted to start with this slide because I wanted you to see, these are the things that credible stands for. These are people that are reliable. They're convincing. These are people that can be trusted. And yet on the other side of that coin is this image, this thought, and this belief that people who've been touched by the system really aren't these things at all. And what we're going to hear today is going to turn that other side of the coin on its head. Because what it's going to say is that who have been impacted can still make a difference in their community. And of course, the messenger is just a person that carries a message. So the question then becomes, what's the message that they're carrying? This dude right here is one of my favorite people. Y'all know him? Anybody know? Well, no, too late. I hear some uh-huhs. If you don't know who Brian Stevenson is, I need you to Google. Stevenson is a bad brother. He's an attorney, he's a social activist, he's all of that stuff you see on the line. Teresa, Nira, who we did not introduce, taking a pause. Zanira Whitfield is out in the lobby here. She's the one that's been checking you in all day. She's the other person that's on our team. Me, Z, and Teresa were in DC, feels like 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, at the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention's National Conference. And Mr. Stevenson was one of our keynote speakers. One of the things that he said, he gave us some marching orders that day, but one of the things that he said that makes sense to me, and that I want to share with you, and that I believe our folks at Chattanooga are doing well, is he said, you got to get proximate. What's about proximity? In essence, it's hard to know what people are really dealing with until you get close to those people. It's hard to know what those issues are. We hear it on TV all day long. We hear what people are saying. Richard said something earlier. The media would have us to believe, and other people would have us to believe, that youth is out of control. But for decades, you heard Richard say, and the research backs that up, for decades, it's been trending downward. Now, what is popping up high are the more violent crimes. So that's real. That's real. But overall, youth delinquency is on the downgrade. And so what Brian says is that you got to get close to. That means you got to get out where people live. You got to get out to the schools. You got to get out into communities. You can't just hear a young person did an offense and say, whoa, that was bad. And some of the things they're doing are bad. We're talking about carjacking. Some instances, some of the stuff is bad. But the question ought to be asked, what prompted that? We can look at the offense all day long and say that's horrible and they should be locked up and they should be charged as adults and all of those kinds of things. But I believe that there is always a root. I believe that there's always a reason why people do what they do. And especially in young people, those behaviors are about something. The things that they are acting out about is about something. And if we could ever figure out what the something is, then we'd be better. But the way we do that is we got to get close. So Brian talked about getting proximate. The other thing he talked about was changing the narrative. And it really does speak again to what I just said. The narrative that we hear is that young people are out of control. They all need to be charged as adults. They all need to be locked up. Somebody needs to do something. We gotta just stop hitting them on the wrist. We can't be doing. When the reality is, most of the young people that we come in contact aren't the ones that need to be locked up. Just like on the adult side of the house, there are some young people who, for their safety and the safety of our community, they need to be in secure facilities. That's just the reality. But that's not most of our young people, right? And so Brian talks about getting proximate, he talks about getting close, and then he talks about changing the narrative. We've got to change the narrative. And when I look at our Chattanooga partners, I feel like that's what they're doing. We've got to change the narrative around adults who have been impacted by the system, adults who have gotten in trouble, adults who've gone to jail and or prison, and stop believing that because they have a felony or even a misdemeanor, that even though they've done their time, and yet when they come home, we still look at them as the criminals and the convicts that society says they are. So in order to change the narrative, we gotta learn how to see them differently. And this group is going to show us something different. They're going to show us that just because there may have been some of them who walked down that path, it doesn't mean that they still can't give back to their community. It doesn't mean that they can't still be trusted. It doesn't mean that they still can't be credible, because the reality is, into some neighborhoods and folks don't know me and they're going to look at me strange. You are here. But when you grow up, go back to that neighborhood and you're known in that neighborhood, it makes a difference. And so I mentioned Brian to you because he's just a bad brother and I need you to know who he is. But I wanted you to hear some of the things that he shared with us on a national level. There were Teresa Z and I and 2,500 of our best friends were in DC a few weeks ago, listening to this guy give us some instructions and some encouragement. And the fourth thing he said is that we need to remain hopeful. Gotta remain hopeful. It's so easy to hear all of the things that we hear and become despondent and become overwhelmed and say, how can I make a difference? Is this ever going to get better? It's hope that allows us to keep doing the work. It's that belief that somehow, some way, we're going to come out on the other side of this. And so I wanted to share that. So the Sentencing Project put out a report in June of last year. And it put out this report on alternatives to incarceration models. There were 4 of those models. 2 of them are the ones that I want to share with you today, and then I'm going to get out of the way. Sentencing Project said, these are things that are working for young people. These are things, as Richard mentioned earlier, and as I just said, the majority of our young people don't need to be in lockup. They don't need to be securely bound in places. They just don't. There are some things that we can do with them. There are some alternatives to incarceration. And the first one the Sentencing Project talked about was this credible messaging mentoring model. These are community residents with a history of involvement in the justice system who provide intensive support to youth and their families, typically as one part of a multi-pronged intervention. The second thing they talked about was advocates and mentors. They really kind of go hand in hand. These are folks that are assigned, trained community residents to work intensively with young people and their families, providing support to the families and helping young people avoid delinquency and achieve their goals. And I highlighted some things there because I want us to see the commonality in those. In both of those, what you're going to see is community residents. These are people who live in those young people's community. They're not folks who are coming in from the outside trying to help. They live there, right? They're community residents. The second thing you see is that those persons are providing support. They're not wagging their fingers, they're not talking down to, but they're providing support. And the third thing I want to bring to bear is that they're doing that not just with young people who may be on a bad path, but they're doing that with young people and their families. When I started way back in the day, not as far back as when Richard started, but when I started way back in the day, there was this sense that on the delinquent side of things, there was this sense that if those young people had committed a delinquent offense, they were in DCS custody because of something they did. We fixed them. We sent them away to some facility and they did extremely well because they had structure, right? And then we sent them back home 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Those young people were coming right back into DCS custody and nobody seemed to get that might be something wrong with that. Like, what are we not doing? We were working on young people, but we were doing nothing to work with our families. And what these 2 alternatives say is that those things go hand in hand. What are the issues that our families are facing? I shared this with Brother Michael last night. I was talking about my first job right out of college was at a group home. And I had a young man there who was in DCS custody for selling drugs. And he was a good boy. I'd say good boy. He was a good young man. He was at that time probably like 3 years younger than me, but he was a good young man, right? And so I was sitting with him and talking with him one day and trying to figure out what happened. And he said to me he was from a single parent family. His mother was a single parent. He had younger siblings. He lived in a housing project, as we like to call them, in inner city Nashville. And he was selling drugs to help provide for his family. Was it wrong to sell drugs? Sure it was. But when I heard why he was selling drugs, we could do something different about that, right? If the issue is economics, what can we do to help provide for his mother and his children, his baby brothers and sisters, rather than him having to do what he did, right? So when I talk about roots, that's what I'm talking about. There's always something that leads our young people to do the things that they do. And so I share this with you so that you understand, and I know, as Richard said, for some of you, I'm preaching to the choir, but I share this because I want us to see those commonalities: community, support, and then working with youth and families. And I believe as I turn our Chattanooga people loose, they're gonna share all of these things, and we're gonna sit back in amazement and talk about how can we do that in Nashville? How can we do that wherever our folks are tuning in from? We've got folks in our teams room from all the way over in Johnson City, 5 hours here. And we've got some folks that are joining us from down in Memphis and all across the mid-state. And so they want to hear, what can we do better for our young people? And so I am going to ask Chris to come and to, you do this the way you want to do this. You want to bring all your people up, or you want to talk and point at them, whatever you want to do. We want to hear from you now.
Thank you so much.
Can we give Ms. Linda a round of applause, please? Thank you so much, Ms. Linda, for having us here on today. Thank you for your leadership and your support. We truly appreciate you. To Brother Richard, we thank you as well. And to everyone that's in the room, we are truly excited to be here on today. And we want to simply echo everything that Ms. Linda said. And to be honest, can we be ourselves this afternoon? Is that okay? Can we be ourselves today? All right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure before we get started. We're definitely going to do that then. Because our team is a gumbo, an array of different mixtures and flavors that you're going to hear from on today. So I just want to shout out to my team as well. If you all can just wave your hand. Everyone that drove up today from Chattanooga, Tennessee, we're just grateful for each and every one of you all right? So I want to start off by saying this. Before I say that, to everyone that's listening to us online and to everyone that's in the room, can we give yourselves a round of applause for just one moment, please? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. There's a quote in an adage that we say, you and I are the aspirin to someone else's headache. The question is, how long are we going to allow them to hurt? With you answering the call every day allows us the opportunity to be the aspirin to a young person, to a family, to a school, to a principal, to someone in the community who needs leadership guidance. And your work does not go unnoticed. Every single day, you have brothers and sisters right here in Tennessee. I was gonna say just Chattanooga, but across Tennessee, that is fighting boots on the ground to do the work just as much as you are doing the work. And we appreciate each and every one of you all for doing the work that you do. And again, it does not go unnoticed. I also would like to say this as we begin to get into our slide presentation, that Frederick Douglass said that it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And we already know without a shadow of a doubt that we're dealing with men who are broken that still have little boy syndrome and little girl syndrome because someone didn't speak directly to what it is that was going on in that child's life at the various ages where trauma began to set in for them. For some of them, they saw trauma as early as 3 years old, 4 years old, that they heard their mother literally cuss them out. They heard daddy in the other room doing all kind of crazy stuff, and he was bagging and flipping and mixing. He's doing all kind of stuff. So all they're doing is perpetuating what it is that they saw their parents do and their siblings do and everyone else in the household. So because of all of these particular things, we have to also do exactly what Ms. Linda said, is how can we be boots on the ground? How can we be accountable? How can we have safety like Richard talked about? How can we have the rehabilitation to let people know that you're not bad, you just made a bad decision. You're not an outcast, you're not all these things, but to unlearn and relearn a new version of themselves. There's a book called How to Be the Gift of Being Yourself, and it talks about your raison d'etre, your reason for being. We want to tell people how to become again who they were created and called to be. With that being said, out of the Office of Community Health, our mission, our vision is to create practical approaches that recognize and address the factors that lead to youth and young adult violence. Thank you so much. All right. Our vision is to support the mayor's One Chattanooga plan by building a safe community through transformational and collaborative pathways to decrease violence. All right, for this one. Okay. All right. This way. Okay, thank you so much. All right. So Mayor Kelly, several years ago, he came into office, he created the Office of Community Health. And it was really a play on to what our former mayor, Mayor Andy Burke, did as it pertains to the Violence Reduction Initiative. And he wanted to go on and tag a little bit more and to dive in deeper into the One Chattanooga plan, where he says, listen, we have too many silos across the state of Tennessee. And what can we do as Chattanoogans to kind of bridge the gap and make sure that we have a holistic approach to not just education, not just to infrastructure, but what can we do from a safety standpoint to ensure that not just our young people are taken care of, but also our families are taken care of. With that being said, he created the One Chattanooga plan where he says, listen, if we come together, we will be able to build together and we're able to break down not just those silos, but we will be able to impact the lives of people who live on Signal Mountain, Lookout Mountain, but also in the valley, in the projects, in the ghettos, in the hoods, and so everything that Ms. Tunley said in the Midtown District with the school system, that we're there every day, which for us, a lot of people on the outside call those the hood schools, but for us, it's the opportunity for us to impact the lives of young people and families and let them know that they have purpose, value, and they have hope. So that's our goal, is to ensure that every single day we give them the opportunity to be a better version of themselves because of that. With that being said, our goal is to minimize youth and young adult violence by 25%. And assist to impacted families through prevention and intervention strategies. Through gun violence prevention, our office is broken down from the Office of Community Health and looking at violence from a health crisis, a public health crisis. And then it's broken down from not just the health standpoint, but community safety. And under our community safety, we discovered that we need to have community violence interrupters. These are men and women who go into the community that are boots on the ground, that come from various communities, that have lived experiences and can say, you know what, I've done my debt to society, I paid my debt to society, and I want to give back and be able to impact the same places and spaces where I've had those things that I've done that I knew was wrong, but I had to do just like what we already heard. I had to figure out how to help mama pay the bills. I had to help my siblings because I understand that there were so many different things. I had to make sure that I made it out the hood and got it out the mud because there was nobody else around me that was doing something totally different. So we had to have a different version and a model that I took that lick, and because I took that lick, you don't have to take that lick in this generation. So we want to make sure that we are impacting the lives of young people, letting them know that there are people who have been there and done that, and that you don't have to continue down the road of the violence and the perpetuated trauma. And not only that, but we also see that there's a 2-generational approach to making sure that we're doing this. Again, I told you that some of these young people are only doing what they saw their parents do, their grandparents do. And we have so many different stories. I remember several years ago when I got back in Chattanooga, Tennessee, that a young man who had a full ride to the University of Alabama, this particular young man did some amazing feats in the criminal world. And for him to be so young, he ran a empire. He was doing amazing things. And the only way they took him out was because somebody was close to him. And that was the only way that they could get to him. And at that particular time, when I got back to the city, at that time I was youth pastor. And here it is, they killed the young man and they had his funeral at the church. So I had the opportunity to sit down and talk to each member of his particular family. I talked to his homeboys. I talked to his clique. I talked to certain people in his gang. And then at the funeral, I met his dad, who was a gang member. Then I met his granddaddy, who was a gang member. Then I met his uncle, who was in the gang. And then I met his grandmama on the opposite side, who had dealings. And when I looked at the situation, I sat up there and said, this man had no hope. Because all he knew for the last 3 generations was nothing but trauma, violence. And here it is, he was able to go and do all these things because he had a model. So how can we flip the model? How can we flip the blueprint to have something different? So as the work that the team and I have been able to do on multi-facets of levels, we have been able to see certain decreases go down in Chattanooga, Tennessee. With that being said, here's some stats right here. To date, non-fatal shootings in Chattanooga are negative 25% at this particular moment. Homicides are down by negative 13%. And for us, we're focusing on zone 3, which in our city is the most violent area. That is the 37406 zip code. And that is where we see the most violence and all those particular things that's going on in our city. And in order to combat some of the crime and violence, we can't ask people to come to us anymore. We have to go to where the crime is, where the violence is. We have to get down on the ground and make sure people understand that we're not afraid, we're not scared, but you put your hands on just like we do one leg at a time. And we have to build, here it is, intentional relationships. We have to build intentional relationships. And we'll understand this better by and by. But let me make sure I say this, that you understand that relationship is the new currency. Relationship is the new currency. And we have to build relationship with people to let them know that you are loved, that you are valuable, and that's something that you have that I need, and vice versa. And if we come together to work together, we will impact not just this block, but we can impact this community, and we can give the resources needed to feed the families. We can give resources to help pay light bill, water bill. We can empower you and encourage you to have something that you never had before. And sooner rather than later, you will look up and understand and realize that our life is a whole lot better because we did it together. Very critical. It's very important that we do just that. Yes, sir.
A lot of times, people will meet one more.
Yes, sir.
And I was thinking that was negative, but yeah, I felt like I was a product. Right? But I feel like that if you change the environment by doing what you said, by being boots on the ground and stuff like that, that means that the young kids that's coming up is gonna see something different than what we saw.
Yes, sir.
But it takes for us to be able to strategize and to have a plan, because you can't come out there one or two people.
Yes, sir.
Because like me and him can go out there.
Yes, sir.
But it's thousands of little kids out there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, I'm following everything y'all saying. I just appreciate it. It's like the Most High had me in this place for a reason.
That's what's up. Thank you so much for sharing that. And let me say this to his point. He said, it just doesn't happen. There are so many meetings, and my team will tell you, I'm in a meeting all day, every day, in some shape, form, or fashion, because it's a dance, and then it's a juggling act and a match to make sure that we're doing what the community say that we're doing, and that the needs are being taken care of. But then we have to go back and translate it to different stakeholders and people of influence and power to help them understand, like, hey, if we really want to see a collective change, if we really want to do something different, we have to listen to the people who are the most impacted and take their strategies and listen to what they say and flip the mindset. Let me say that one more time. Flip the mindset and the system that has been systemically set up in such a way that people who are in some of these issues have been in. We have to listen to these people and say, how can we be impactful like never before to change the landscape of what they see on a regular basis? So it's very critical that we go into the school systems, which you will hear about in just a moment, that we're in the hoods feeding every single week, that we have programs that are safe spaces for young people during the Christmas break, because you all know just as much as we do that there's an uptick in crime every time there is a school break. So we want to make sure that we have stuff. And not only that, even when it comes to revitalization, that the young people understand how this stuff works. If I'm not mistaken, there was revitalization in North Nashville. There was revitalization off Jefferson Street. So when you think about these particular things and how it affected the economy here, think about what it's doing to other young people. If you're listening to us from Johnson City, or if you're here listening from Memphis, why does Collierville have to look different from White South Haven and other places like that? Why does this particular thing matter? So we have to be well versed and say, listen, this affects you. So how can we help with the economy to make sure that it's impacted in such a way that everybody can eat? At this time, I'm going to invite my good brother and friend, Montreal Bashley, who is the program director and manager for the Office of Community Health, to talk about our strategies at this time.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This time I gonna be just like that. I'm straightforward and straight to it. I know a lot of people try to figure out, why did that zone get selected? Yes, we have violence across the city. We have violence across the state. But like Chris said, these were our hotspots. But those hotspots come when people report. So if we don't report, we can't become a hotspot. Because I'm on the south side, so I'm completely way across town from Avondale, Bushtown, East Chattanooga, and the west side. So, but on my side of town, we don't report. We don't say, hey, buddy got shot down the street yesterday. We not calling the police. We're going straight to the emergency room and you better not tell me about it. So we got to get that. We got to get rid of that mindset in our households. So, but these are the areas that we're actually focusing in, but we can't do this without partnership, like Chris said. Without, the Nation of Islam helping us, without, us being in the school system, without other partners throughout our community. So prevention and intervention. So this is how we get the job done. It comes through, just like Ms. Luther said, through, partnerships and mentoring and getting into the schools and being boots on the ground. So she said something that was great, and I don't think we don't always give the right people the right credit, and that's those credible messengers. So when you get credible messengers and you add mentoring and advocacy, you get the 4-2-3 chain breakers.
Yeah.
This is how they get the work done. Without them, we couldn't do this. Because as we grew up, we had coaches we listened to, we had teachers, we had other people that we listened to and we respected. Now, it's been pretty much flipped on its head. Coaches don't have any credit anymore. We can't go and talk to a lot of these kids. But you put somebody in front of them like a Ricky that has been through some things, or somebody like Nate, or somebody like Travis, or somebody like Jermichael, and our other team members that have actually experienced what they see is cool on these videos and on social media and on TikTok. Oh man, you can get them to conquer the world. So I'm not going to keep your ear and keep talking, because I want y'all to hear from the real people that are really boots on the ground, that are the credible messengers for our city. I'd like to bring up Mr. Troy and Mr. Ricky. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Dale, I missed something. Oh, you want to go to the next slide? I'm sorry. I got excited. So this is our team.
When I get those.
You gonna bring? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go first the video, no? First the video.
First video. But this is our team, man. These are our credible messengers right here.
That's a video.
Video. I just did video.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, there it is, right there. Gotta make it bigger. I ain't bring my glasses. I got you. I got you.
Illustrated.
Oh, why is it going back? Okay. There we go. It's not showing up on my screen. That's all right. Yeah, it's not showing on the screen. But it's not moving up there. We're looking at two different things.
There we go.
Video? There, sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good.
There we go.
You're good.
Oh, this is Travis. Okay, cool.
Can you blow it up, folks, please?
Yeah.
There we go.
Turn it up. Music and turn it up. There
CBD says these are the shooters and they have all been most frequently since 2019. They include civil. Meantime, city government officials say Chattanooga violence prevention program is having positive effects on young people.
News Channel Chicago Spikes takes a look at the supporters.
It means a lot to me and my kids, because sometimes they have stuff to eat, and every Wednesday we depend on them.
The Chattanooga Police Department says that these statistics show a 7% decrease in juvenile offenses between 2023 and 2024.
Community health movement to create violence in the rooms who come from the community, have served and did their diligence and now giving back in various ways making an impact.
We spoke to a Chattanooga violence prevention group called the 423 Chain Breakers. Officials with the group told us juvenile crimes are often complex.
The killers is manufactured by circumstances in his environment. So it's important to look at everything that they've essentially been through and examine areas where we can intervene and just maybe for those differences in those lives that they've had.
Mayor Tim Kelly told us, quote, the success of the 423 Chain Breakers shows that investing in innovative, community-driven solutions work. Since the launch of the program, we've seen a significant drop in youth crime in the areas the Chain Breakers are working in. So community outreach events like these are trying to the statistics of juveniles committing offenses that we from Chattanooga Police Department by bringing the community together. Troy Rogers, the public safety coordinator for the city of Chattanooga, walked us through one of the city's weekly community meals.
Yeah, should be equal something. It's a covenant. So we make sure that we understand.
The 423 Chain Breakers say they understand these issues on a personal level.
Just $17. Share, be in the streets, shot, even living witness up there. Necessarily have to tell them, this and like access to our community and not like this.
Jakai Spikes, Fox Chattanooga.
The 2-3 Chain Breakers say that we go out weekly. Can you continue helping minors across the here? Those who remind parents dangers of kids and kids in the unattended.
Yeah, that number shows.
You take the next slide.
Yeah. I've gone up recently.
There you go. Next slide.
That's how me dancing. That's how I be trying to get hyped like that, but I gotta be still. Guys, move out. But anyway, so that's such a method to our madness. And so as Montreal talked about, and Chris did an eloquent job, is that we're in zone 3. And zone 3 is our most negative thing. So what we've done is we've looked at when crime happens. And so we look at the days that crime happens, Ms. Linda, and that's we program into violence. If you're going to do anything in your community, you got to program into the times where kids are doing things because they have to have an alternative. And so in bringing the Chain Breakers in play, man, Mayor Kelly did a really good thing because guys, we cannot send people in our communities who haven't been there, done that because they just don't understand. You got to take credible messengers in the places where you're going because they've been there, done it, and people know who they are. Like Montreal said, we're athletes. They ain't studying that. They're studying a guy who used to stand on the block and now got his life together. And so in building this and building the 423 Chambers, we understood that we had to get them really consistent and we had to build something really strong. And so as he said, we do stuff 4 nights a week. And so Monday night, we do a thing called Real Talk Mondays. That's where you just come and talk about what you want to talk about. This past Monday, we talked about communication, and we had a bunch of dads in there that said, man, they're just happy to have their kids. So we did that Monday. On Tuesday, we do something called Taco Tuesdays, where we go into the West Side community, man. We play basketball. Nathan did an awesome thing with resumes, questions, and things like that for the young people who had never done that. We're working on an ID fair right now where the guys can go and get their IDs. Guys, you don't know how many people just don't have their IDs. And so taking an ID truck into the hood can change whether a guy can go get a job or not. On Wednesday, we do something called We. You heard that we go to the Bayberry, which right now is our most heavily violent place, and serve the community with a meal every Wednesday, whether it be cold, whether it be hot, we're out there serving. And Nathan and Craddock are the guys who mainly canvass that. Guys, you gotta have people canvassing the community that you're serving. People have got to see them out there because when things happen, we need them to trust them to be able to talk to them. On Thursday, we do one thing called basketball nights. And what we had to move our location, but what we would do is we would always bring an employer in to talk to the young people. See, it's got to be a meaning to everything you do. Shooting basketball, that's just something to do, but we got to get jobs. People need places to stay. And so how can you partner with local people in your community who can help them do that? Also, guys, we're in 7 schools in our community. And so we're in the schools mentoring. We're also in the detention centers. So where the kids are locked up at, we have they go on Friday to the detention centers. We also do job fairs in our community because, guys, crime, she said, Ms. Linda said earlier, crime is, Dr. Alexander might have said it, Dr. Kennedy, excuse me, crime is totally economic. And we look at crime from a lens, guys. Whatever you decide to do, you got to have a lens, and our lens is socioeconomics.
Yeah.
And so our first lens is the lens of poverty. What did Gandhi say? He said that poverty is the worst form of violence. Number 2, we look at it from the lens of fatherlessness. That's a big thing in our community. Number 3, we look at it from the lens of untreated mental illness, which right now is a public health crisis. And our 4th one, guys, and this is the one that we got to be on because it's getting out of hand, illiteracy. 4th grade year right now is a watershed for guys. Either you can't read, most likely that you'll be on welfare, or you'll struggle for the rest of your life. And so we're gonna bring them up here, the stars of the show. But in doing this work, you have to have a method to your madness. And we've been able to have that. We work really hard. We work from morning to night. But what we've been able to do in the community is we build trust and a commitment. And when your marriage offers trust you, that's a good thing because you can get a lot, we can help a lot more people. And so we're hoping to just do so many great things, partner with you guys, but we're so excited. I want to bring up Latasha Lindsay, Dr. Lindsay. I want to bring up Dr. Ricky Harper. I call him, I'm speaking it in the atmosphere. And I want to bring up Dr. Nathan Carter.
Yeah.
These, I'm gonna call them young people. They do some tremendous things in our community. They do some things that some people can't do. Okay. And so I guess you guys want to share this. I'm gonna get out the way. And who wants to start, Tosh? You want to start? You want to start him? Let me go a little bit. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, want me to go with it.
Go, Rick.
Go ahead, Rick. Let's go.
Rick. Frank Reed, talk about it.
I don't know how I can talk in front of 2,000 killers, but I get so nervous doing it. So bear with me.
Let's talk. Let's talk.
I'm just talking, but just being myself, to give a little bit of my background. My name is Ricky Harper from Chattanooga. At one point, I was the leader of a gang. At one point, I was the one pushing the fit out in the neighborhood. I did a prison stint, and that credible measurement thing, that's something that I'm trying to turn into a positive. So the kids who see me do all that, for some reason, it's a form of hood credit, street credit. But for them to see me on this side of the table, it gives a leeway for me to introduce them to my supervisor. What they don't understand is they're from the same neighborhoods, but they just didn't take the same path I took. But for me to tell them about it, it makes it all great. So what we do, we chose, the police gave us data of zone 3. We're not even from that area, but the people from that area knew us from us being in the street. So what we didn't tell them was the people that's doing the crimes there, they actually approached us like, hey, what's up, blah, 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 blah. But we was able to say, man, nah, we need a different approach. Change hood to community. The kid who went to school for 4 years and the person got out of prison at 4 years, for some reason, they give a party to the guy who did 4 years. But the kid who went to school, he just threw away. So we trying to change those dynamics in the way of thinking of saying, well, we got to start praying. You know, that's my approach right now, like smaller things.
My name is Latasha Lindsay. I was a victim service advocate. I still hang out with them. I'm a adult intervention specialist now. But when I first started, I remember when Chris asked me the question about dealing with certain, people and could I handle it? I said, I'm from the hood. And Montreal, you forgetting to mention that we're from the same hood. But so what we do is interact. The most important thing is you have to know how to relate to people you're serving. So when we get out there and in the community, engage, not only are we trying to reach the youth, we're trying to get their families too. Because the youth got to go back to the families. So we try to provide the resources that's needed, like Troy said, education, housing, and, employment to make the family stable. So they don't have to keep going back to the same situation. So that's basically, as a victim service advocate, the people that are, impacted by the violence, even the gun violence, we try to find them like a safe place. Sometimes they have to find a safe place to go. So that's part of what I used to do as a victim service advocate. But I still like hanging out because I'm still needed, so I'm still needed in the things that we do.
Thank you. Quick background about me as well. Back in the day, I didn't finish high school. I dropped out. I was full-time ninth grader. I felt like live fast, die early, leave a cool corpse. Got shot when I was 17 because I was a shooter. Then I developed a taste for fast money. Back in my day, we called it finessing. My grandma would call me a con artist, which now has developed into scamming. So that's a little bit about my background, but the main key focus that we all seem to agree on, me and the colleagues that have our feet on the ground, is consistency, and you got to walk it how you talk. We can't be lukewarm. We got to be hot or cold. So with that being said, it's a saying that sticks with me that I try to reflect, because a child is like a mirror. It's only going to reflect what it sees. So we try to lead as an example, not just talking. Like he said, people from my hood know exactly what time it is when they see us. But when they see what we're doing now they want to be a part of that. Because we led them one way, now we're going to lead them the right way. That makes sense. So that being said, we'd like to thank you for your time and your attention. And we're going to introduce Ms.
Well, talk about the impact that y'all make within schools, not just with the kids that, are 4.0 kids, but it's the bubble kids and kids that, that people that just throwing away, specifically the alternative school.
Alternative school, yeah. That's Achinab, yeah. So yeah, it's a collective, yeah, because I think someone said it, if they didn't, I'm saying it's not a bad kid. It's a good kid. He just made a bad decision. So instead of, like you say, wagging your finger at them, we're going to tell them, hey, man, what did we learn from this? And then we're going to elevate them. And then we're going to challenge them. And we're going to motivate them. We're going to keep motivating. Because, quick example, one kid just felt like it didn't matter if he did right or wrong, because he go end up with the same results. I said, you are not insane. That's the definition of insanity. What you mean, Mr. Nate? So if you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, you are insane. So let's do it like this. The next time someone says something to you, this is a small example. It starts, you got to plant that seed though. So I tell the kids, instead of saying I, yell. Just say, yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Watch how they look at you differently now. Give it a week. Come back. Now he's motivated. Because now that he gave respect, he's getting respect. Now that kid, now for the basketball team. That's just a small example. I hope that answers what you was leading into. So yeah, can't tell, I'm trying, come up there. So,
Speak about these guys be highlighted, and talk about they pull, our young people in Chattanooga in, so it can be duplicated in other cities, because they can't. They can work in all cities. But these guys are they're unique. So Rick, talk about how you connect with the kids. So how do you make it so easy for the kids to come talk to you versus talk to me, or Chris or Troy, or if they're there?
Well, I got a double life. Where I told you about the game thing. I actually graduated college, and I was a standout basketball player. So I'm kind of what you call a chameleon. But I actually grew up in East Lake Pride. So I understand hunger. I understand that When I walked out the door, my dad is right there getting served by my best friend. So I understood getting jugged at, getting teased because your dad a crackhead. But I gotta think for 6 seconds, I don't need to react because I can lead this way. And the main thing I preached though, I had a real relationship with my mother. And a lot of things didn't deter from me until she died. So I make sure that they understand that they gotta center themselves. Me and a guy named Dylan Bryant, is a part of our team, we make sure they try to center themselves around something they love. Getting emotional, thing my mom involved. One thing you can do for a male is make sure that they understand manhood. But one thing you do for a young lady is understand motherhood. So that's how I relate to them. Try to get them to understand the difference between having street cred and being a man.
Sure, got me front now. Talk about the Red Bank group with how you got the guys talking to each other, and talk about the juvenile detention on Fridays.
When we went into Red Bank initially, most of them was not talking to each other, period. They just walked down the aisle, put their earphones on, and we felt out there was a way for them to just block the world. And all of us in here grew up in a social development world where we didn't have the internet. It's fights, it's things that way. But you know, we'll have a fight and be friends in this day. Once we got into them and got them to communicating, my thing is to make sure they understand that we're brothers. I'm not gonna not like you anymore at 40 years old because I grew up in East Lake and you grew up in Elm Park. We're trying to break that barrier down. My mom on Section 8, your mom on Section 8. Like all that right there got to tie into it. Got to make them understand that when I look at you, I see the same thing. I'm not saying that they call it op. That's the new word they use today. There's no opposition except for the leadership that we spoke on. Poverty, that's what the op should be. It shouldn't be nothing that hurts the other brother. So that's what we be doing in Red Bank. We just had a thing where well, I'm gonna go back to the West Side. In the West Side, we taught them how to tie a tie. That one little thing had those little boys running around the gym like they were so happy just to tie a tie. Those little things presenting that into their lives, it be getting us. But we be like, wow, they really appreciate those things. They actually help. You definitely help. This woman right here, she helped do that. And they really be appreciating a woman coming in, speaking life into them. Not to talk about anybody's parents, but as we talked about before, the parents came from trauma also. And they probably came from a situation where being transparent, like Mr. Chris said, we're gonna be ourselves. They probably got pregnant by a dope boy who didn't want the baby in the first place, and she hated the baby dad so much, she is putting all that anger on this child. So hearing this woman come in and say, "Oh, you're a king," just different things like that, that keeps them coming back. You know, so we just try to breathe like into them the best way we can.
Go ahead, Doctor.
What he said about the dope, you know, I can tell him, I used to date the drug dealers. I used to date gangbangers, you know, and so coming back to my life, I wasn't in the street, you know, doing what they were doing, but I had that drug addict parent. I had that drug addict children daddy that died of overdose. So I can tell them those things that they need to hear, you know, so.
I'll say, talk about, we touched on it, but talk a little bit about the victim services. How do we get, you know, people to open up to our victim services team? You pretty much.
Like, say for instance, me and Nate, if he brings someone to me, or I just go out, I engage with people anyway. I have that personality. Sometimes you can't go to, even though they're kids, you still can't go to them like you above, way above. You got to come down to their level. So I pretty much, my personality can meet, you know, each one. So with that, you still have to have them to gain your trust and build that rapport with them. And so from there, you know, we have a relationship going on, and they know, they trust me, they're gonna tell you what they need and things like that, the resources that were going on in their house and everything. They'll tell you everything. So from there, that's what happens.
It's kind of like letting them drive the car.
Yeah.
You let them, like you said, you build that connection. Now, the piggyback all the way back what what he said about family. Like, I was born to a teenage mom. So it was kind of like a kid raising a kid. My mom, I seen her do stuff and I mimicked the stuff that she was doing, you know. And as I got older, she changed her life. She graduated college and went on and did that. But I was living the fast life as a teenager. And I thank God it worked out the way it did. I wouldn't take nothing back. Because like I said in that video, we are assets to our community now and not liabilities. Destroy and rebuild. So I'm glad it started with me.
Either one of y'all want to talk real quick and almost never come up. Either one of y'all want to talk about, you do the after school, you do the evening school at Orchard Knob, talk about Fishbone Friday and the attendance, and then Rick, talk a little bit about Fridays at Juvenile and how the staff has really just latched on to y'all.
So real quick, yeah, you see me coming up for ISS or in school suspension, you know, and oh man, you know, cause I ain't tell them straight up, you know, we're gonna be real. I ain't one of these teachers. I know what you're talking about. I know what that means. It ain't gonna go in my head. I'm like, man, come on, chill out. And instead of blasting them, you take their warning, just let him know. That's why I said it's like a domino effect. Once you reach one, then they go see that it's okay. It's cool to be square. And then the bad one, oh, well, if he's like that, I want to do it too. You know, and then I reward them. Because I always challenge them. I always give them a reward. It started off with something, Snickers, bag of Takis or something like that. It's just the feeling, it's self-gratification. It's just like the first time you ever cut grass. You get that self right then gratification. See that long grass on you, push that lawnmower, it's cut. Make you feel good when you stand back and look at that whole yard like, dang, I did that. We do that same approach with each and every kid. And in the neighborhoods, especially the Bayberry, they say, that's the Woodlands, where we, back in the day, they try to make it sound sweet Bayberry now. That's Zone 3, based on the data with the professional relationship that we have with the Chattanooga Police Department. They say that's the worst crime area in Chattanooga. So by us campusing that area, now we're recognizing everybody, man, what them dudes doing out here? Yeah, homeboy, don't sell dope, and boy, them kids getting off the bus. There's a no dope selling zone until we leave then. So if we do that every day, they're like, man, here they come again, here they come again. Then they go eventually like, man, I'm gonna go over here to the other block. I ain't gonna do it no more. But give me an idea, Mr. Nate. If I don't want to sell dope no more, we got American Job Center, what time you gonna pick you up in the morning? I ain't gonna tell them, I'm gonna challenge him. That's the challenge. You say you bad at it, I'm bad at it for real. I'll pick you up. Ain't no excuse. Yeah, ain't no excuse. We don't take excuse. I wouldn't say that analogy because my mama told me excuses like everybody got one. So yeah. And with that being said, yeah, it's time Miss Deborah now, right? Miss Deborah Maddox. Thank you.
Yes, I think we do need to pull more out of them because what they do is 4 days a week. They are in these communities. They feed them 4 days a week, every week. In order to do that, okay, what we need? Okay. So we started out in 2014. Okay, with it's called the Big Small Stuff Fund now, but it was actually the Violence Reduction Initiative Fund. Or we went to a hospital and said, do you know how much it costs to take care of somebody who's been shot, who's uninsured? Can you help us out? They started us out with $10,000. So we used that money actually if we needed some information from someone out in the street. That was before all of this came about. Then what we would do is we would say, you know, can you help them? Did you see something? Yeah, man, I sure did. you know, but, you know, hey, I need something. Well, what you need? Need some diapers for my baby. So the city with a fund buying diapers? I was audited 3 times based on this because they were like, okay, can you justify all this? And we did. We justified it all. So even after that, we ended up saying, okay, we now have big, small stuff fund that individuals, companies put money into that account and we use it. Let's say someone attended our job fair for the justice involved and they needed some tools to start work. Well, they hadn't got a paycheck. So that big, small stuff fund will buy those tools, will buy those steel-toed boots, you know, will give them a bus pass to get to work. So you have to look at thinking out of the box in order to help. That's what we did with the money. That's what we're doing with the 423 chain breakers. Then it's like, okay, now we got people who are coming to us and they are witnesses in a crime. But they are afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of someone now looking for them. So what do we do with the fund? Well, first of all, we had to solicit for it, and we ended up having a chief of police who started with us saying, this is how we want to help you, okay? So it's not the federal witness, what they call it, witness protection. It's not witness protection, it's witness support. And we have gotten people out of town by using that fund. But we just not doing it just to run everybody out. We have to get a commitment from that person. Are you willing to come back and testify? I mean, we've sent them all over the country. We create a safety plan first. We sit them down. We create a safety plan. And as a part of that safety plan, then that's how we, you know, end up implementing and getting them away. We even have helped some with getting, work with the housing authority, get them Section 8 vouchers. So when they go out of town, you know, that voucher goes with them. Section 8 vouchers, it's a federal program. So it is something that can be used throughout the United States. Also, we might help them with getting a job. We get in touch with the social service agency that's in that town. Okay? Now, how do we feed these people 4 days a week? It wasn't in our budget. We were struggling. So somebody actually heard us and what all we were doing and said, hey, I got a foundation. And you have to be asked to submit a proposal to that foundation. They said, ask for 20,000. And we did. Because we have a budget now of at least $2,000 every month. We have people who are donating gift cards, Visa gift cards, Little Caesars gift cards. We keep all of these accounts in a separate food account. We have the witness support in a separate support account. We also have the big small stuff fund in a separate account. Every last one has criteria. Understand, when you're doing work in the community and you're using funds, you're using the city government, you have to have criteria. You have to have policy, and that's okay. So then you explain to everybody what those policies are. And sometimes you do have to say no. But in saying no, saying, well, look, I can't help you out this way. Come on. Let's talk. Let's see how we can figure something out. That's what you have to do, is think out of the box. Because you're not dealing with the same type of person every day. You're different than her, than him, than all of these people in this room. Every last one of us, we're different. So we got to figure out how to connect with them, how to connect with this other. And I think that's the reason why, with all of the different personalities, that's why we're such an awesome team. Yeah. Yeah, the gumbo. I saw your hand about to raise. Were you getting ready to ask me something? No? Okay, good. Okay, but it takes money. It took money also because guess what? This is somewhat a pilot program. They're part-time. They put they're on the line every day. Part-time to do this.
Don't stop. I'm
They
glad
don't.
you that.
So what we did was we said, hey, let's look at some of these federal grants. And in the federal grant, you know, we decided what we want to do is start off with this federal grant doing them full time. So that would give the city time enough to start putting it as a line item in their budget. Okay. So I had people that were saying, well, you know, it'd be so much easier if we just keep them part-time. I said, well, you know what? Don't you wake up every day coming to work and got benefits? But your life ain't on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's what y'all want to do, count me out.
Appreciate you fighting for it.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it in a perfect world with that line item in the city's budget. How much do you, and I know the answer is everything we can, but what's the budget that you're striving for with this work? With the budget in a perfect world with a line item, what would you like to see to be able to do the work even greater, deeper across the city? And for folks that are listening from other cities, how much money are we talking about in the budget?
Well, the $1.9 million grant is what we received from BJA, Bureau of Justice Administration.
So that's kind of a yearly amount of 1.9 million a year.
Yes. Well, not exactly all of that because we have to do supplies, we have to do, you know, other things, but it's over $1 million.
But that's still cheap compared to what
It
you're losing.
really is. It really is, especially with everything that they do and how they are positively and, you know, impacting things. Then Chris has something to say. He came in on a couple of meetings.
Just a few. So, to also add to that, we really would like 1.9 a year. We really would. But the mere fact that we want to give livable wages to everyone that is on the team of at least 52,000, that is the goal, to make sure that they have benefits for that because they have families. And Ms. Deborah already said, they are out here giving their lives, and there's people who are literally sitting making decisions behind a room that never go outside that space that we've been asking, hey, we need to flip the trajectory because of the fact that the people boots on the ground are actually helping us to be a 7% decrease right now in our city. So every day, Ms. Deborah, myself, we're looking for grants, we're asking, and not only that, but we starting to have people to listen. So if you're listening even right now in your cities, make sure you're listening to the Credible Messengers if you have them. Make sure you're listening to the students because they'll tell you what the need is. And as creatives and thinking outside the box, once we hear a need, we solve that need by making sure we get rid of that problem. And sometimes it's not with just policies and procedures, it's with people who could do the work to say, hey, we need an adequate change and we have to pay the people what they're worth in order to do just that. So that's what that's what we need, that's what we're working on. And to Ms. Deborah's point, this has been a pilot program for the city of Chattanooga. It's taken a lot of trust. Not only that, but we have a partner who came in from Chicago, Trajectory Change Solutions. I do want to make sure I shout out Norman Kirk, who has helped to push the narrative both from a local level and a national level for the work to make sure that we can do that. And we have different partners with CPD, the DOA, and all the alphabets to make sure that we can have the things that we're even seeing right now. So we're appreciative for each and every one of the people that have helped us with that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I want to say that usually when I go to these type of events and stuff like that, usually have people that have not been boots on the ground. And at the end of it, I always say, well, what about people like me? Experience. I don't have book knowledge that all these people up on these panels that y'all have up there, they give you the data and trying to make it all make sense, and that's how they get in their budget. But y'all don't have people like myself who's out there in the streets to talk to these young kids, and I can go places that they're afraid to go to.
Right.
And that's the people that you need to hear from. And that's why, I mean, I'm loving this. I can't stop grabbing the mic because, you know, finally I feel like I'm around some people I can really relate my conversation to. I jump into that gumbo because this might be the potatoes that you're missing. Or it might be some sausage over there. It might be some rice over here, some beans over there. You know what I mean? I'm mixing this thing up. I'm happy.
Thank you. And we are still looking for funds. We had a request, a young man that had been with our program. He had been sitting back watching, had not been engaging. And he ended up coming to our youth calling. He went over to one of the guys who had been working with him and stuff, and off to the side, he said, I kind of like your program, ask for some help. He hit it, want to ask for some help. I had these same clothes on for the last 3 days. I need some school uniforms. Can y'all help me? That qualifies on our big, small stuff fund. I went the next day and got him a week's worth of school uniforms and underwear. But the thing is that he's a youth. There's a new law in town. Parental rights. The has to approve. So since mama and daddy in jail, we went to Granny and asked her, will that be okay? Can we help him out like that? Would you be, would you approve? She said, sure, that would help. His grades are now going up. He's not been in any trouble since that call in. He said, my birthday coming up. Can y'all help me out again? He'd like some beats. Them things cost a pretty penny. And guess what? It doesn't fit in our big, small stuff fund. So in my thinking, I need to figure out another pot of money that I can go after that will be there as an incentive fund for these kids when they go that next level. They're doing exactly what you're asking them to do. So this is something that I'm going to be looking for. But before then, we're going to find somebody who's going to get that boy them beats. Okay? Yeah, we're going to do that. And even before Troy, did you all know? Nationally, okay, gun violence in America, the economic consequence in this nation is $555 billion. in the state of Tennessee. 17,984,414,156 a year. How does that equate? It equates from, first of all, that person gets shot, they go to the hospital, so you got hospital costs. What's the possibility of long-term care? Then maybe the employer has lost an employee. Or if it's a youth, then the parents who have to, that whole pile of economics impacts us all. This is what you're looking at. This is why gun violence has to be dealt with. Mr. Troy?
Yeah, real fast, I just wanted to say, man, first of all, we're excited. I'm glad you, man, it's worth it that you feel the way you do. But for us that are older and been doing this for a while, we have to leverage what we have for the greater good of the group. And so these guys are all over Chattanooga. And yesterday we was in a group and Nate Zay, who was put in Washington. I think he might have went to juvenile one time. Now he's a student. And he just talked about how the relationship, how their relationship was. And guys, remember something. We're at the juvenile center. So if you get in trouble, we're right there. We're at the alternative school. So if you get put out of school, you're going to see us right there. Also, we're active school. And so guys, you got to wave a net large enough to catch people where they are. We also have a kid right now who's playing basketball in Minnesota. Let's talk. Who came to basketball nights, who was out of school, but somebody had a relationship. Chris said it earlier, relationships are the new form of currency. Somebody had a relationship in Minnesota. And so now we was able to get the guy in Minnesota. So you gotta have different things because everybody's not an athlete. Everybody don't like this or that. But like I said, the gumbo pot, it seems like everybody falls into some category that can help from your at-risk all the way to your highest risk individual.
And it's so crazy you said it because I feel like that I have come across, because I've been doing this for a long time, but it's just been me, people, you know what I mean? And it's like the kids you're dealing with now, you know, it used to be sports that you could relate to, and I could relate to that sport. But now you like, not down on football field, you see man getting knocked unconscious, they play for the Bills, like they know that stuff. They like, so now it's like you're encouraging them to be in the band and stuff like that, man. You know, music, this and that. You gotta have something else for them. And like I said, when we was coming up, we used to have what was it like trades. We used to have building, like we used to learn how to build houses. We used to do economics. We used to learn how to bake. I mean, it's just none of that is there anymore. So it's like it's more money that they spending, but it's less stuff that they bought. So there's more they spending, but less stuff that they bought.
You see my last slide. At the end of the day, the United States came together collectively to deal with COVID-19 because it was a health issue. Violence has now been defined as a public health issue. Will we come together to collectively suppress it?
You
Help me again to honor and acknowledge the goodness that we just heard from Chattanooga. Yeah. Wow. That's good stuff, y'all. So that it's been sprinkled in there already. People have been grabbing the mic, grabbing the mic, asking questions. Here is the official time for Q&A. Any questions, comments that you want to ask our here today? both in the room, and Wendy is manning the chat of the Teams folks, and she'll let us know if there are questions in the chat, but any other questions in this space or comments in this space?
Question for you guys. How hard was it for you guys to team up with the police community, the police in y'all community? I'm saying, like, we're even getting them on board, you know what I'm saying, with, in y'all communities, because I know it's kind of hard with.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, it helps to have guys to stand in the gap like Troy, Chris, Estelle, and myself, and Gals. I'm not guys, but they're Gals. It help, yeah. We get the question, but our guys don't work with the police on paper. That's because of the trust in the neighborhoods.
That's what, coming from the neighborhood, I come from the hood.
Yeah.
And I'm still in the hood. I go to the hood every week. You know what I'm saying? So I understand it. So it's kind of, but y'all have y'all community. I know the police presence thing. Y'all regularly work with the police.
Right.
To them, yeah. Put the work out.
Yeah.
For safety purposes, what I'm saying is, it's kind of hard for somebody who you trying to reach. This gang who's selling drugs, knowing that y'all have a relationship with the police. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure out. Yeah.
That's really good. So like they said earlier, so yeah. I was on the other administration. So it's like a relationship, police ranch situation. But as Montreal just said, it's a buffer situation. The sergeant, if you have an issue with if you see them out on the street, if it's something you feel like something ain't right, we're gonna have an off-site meeting. They'll never see them. We do something called. And so if there's a new chain breaker that's starting, we'll make sure that everybody that does the beat in that area knows who they are. Nathan has a story about the relationship that I guess he formed kind of crazy, but the police called him and to not take kids to jail. And that's a relationship that we want. We don't want guys to go to jail. I trust this guy, and it's because Nathan is canvassing that area we told you about all the time, and the police saw him there. And he said, man, instead of taking this kid to jail, I'm gonna get on Mr. Nate. You want to tell the story? Yeah, so real quick, I don't feel safe around police. He said safety. I don't feel safe. So that's what I'm saying. I feel safer with my block than the police sitting across the street watching us. I don't need that officer. You good, move along. But he got the relationship that he see that we're doing a positive thing. So to go back to that story, the kid was skipping school, we doing all day, we mail him, I should not have known. He's standing at the gas station. Yeah, good. He's standing at the gas station. And he got, these people, they take off running, they fall out of the turn off the vehicle safe. That officer could have shot him, and he let him know how serious it was. And he had seen me and his kid before. So instead of calling the bag or making a police report, and the great thing about it, be just point blank, crystal clear. I don't believe that narrative of just, hiring people and all that thing. Because it's a community thing. That officer care about their community. It's fine, officer. Say, hopefully. And one more thing, relationship with the police, from perspective, like today is Wednesday, we have what you call, today, Thursday, we have our current meeting, since we've been sitting here, is Chattanooga United to Reduce Violence. And that's a meeting that we have with CPD, but everybody doesn't attend that particular meeting. So what happens is CPD gives us a report of the things that's taking place in the zone that we're overseeing and surrounding areas, and they give us the information. Well, once they give us the information, we disseminate it out and we try to see what we can help with, stuff like that, but we don't report back to police. So it's a one-way relationship that we have, but it's also a trust factor that they understand that they're working on one side, we're working on the other side,
And it's certain stuff that is shared, but the team doesn't do it. Myself, you know, Troy, Montreal, Ms. Deborah, we have those conversations to keep everybody else at bay, to make sure that we don't mess up any, you know, credibility in the community, no street credit be messed up from that. So we respect it. And so far, so the CPD has respected, and our former chief of police understood it. We knew we built that relationship with him to help him understand it. So our goal is to make sure that everyone is taken care of in the communities in which we serve.
I just want y'all to know, man, don't get it twisted by no means. I hold them accountable. I want to play with them. Because the worst thing they can do is be living. If it's 1 foot in, like they said earlier, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And the police see them doing something that they shouldn't do, which messes up the whole thing of what we were trying to build. So you gotta have accountability on both sides. Stay with them accountable. You know, I see something's not right, we have a conversation, and you gotta vet the guy that you get in any type of program that you start. You gotta vet the guy that you get. And then, you know, you gotta have hard conversation. Because I didn't want y'all to think it's just a one-way situation. No, we get at it. You know, we work hard, we have a great time, and we track data, we track impact, we track everything that we do. But you have to, you know, we hold each other. So it's that situation too. They doing something they should be. You know what I'm saying? It's love. Take this very, very time right now. Take our community and people serve, we take it very, very seriously.
That's real talk. Who may not have that whole line in the sand around policing can sometimes be an issue in our communities, and young people feel, well, a lot of people feel some kind of way about it. So I think it's a great question of how do y'all navigate that? How difficult was it? And I hear you, Chris, now talking about the new administration, like we had this on tap with this last administration, but now we got somebody new in that space. And so it's about building those relationships all over again. Just Deb?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're kind of like, the way Tuskegee Airmen, we're being twisted. Because they have been asked by the Downtown Association to monitor downtown when they have nightfall concert events down there. I mean, it's to the point of where people are understanding our roles and they're respecting that, but we know that we have to hold ourselves accountable and we have to respect the positions that we've been placed in.
Yeah.
So it's always a two-way street.
Like it ain't that we don't really want to mess with police, but they don't look like us. You got a whole neighborhood full of black and brown communities, and then you got all white police officers in that community. It's just, you know, even the people that work with you that don't look like us, how often are they in our community? You know what I mean? And that's the thing about it. We have to really have more kind of conversations like it and find the funding to bring these type of organizations like this right here to the forefront, to be the voice for the people that might not look like us or might not be going through. But if you know that you a race car driver and you know you're gonna have to find somebody that got a history of working on cars to come in there and do it. You feel what I'm saying? It's like you can't just have somebody just because where the data, and I know the data is important, but the data can be manipulated.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? That's what I've learned, because I've been a number man a long time. You know, because believe it or not, yeah, I was shot, stabbed and all that, but I also was interested in capital figures. I wanted to fly airplanes and stuff, so I did aircraft mechanics and stuff like that. Stuff people don't know about me. They know about my history in the streets and stuff like that, but they don't know that when it comes to those numbers, there's something about them just click with me. And so when I hear that data, and then they be like, they can change the wording and this and that, and it makes the data go down and make the data go up. And it's for the benefit of the people who receiving the funding. You feel what I'm saying? Not for the benefit of the people who is affected. I'm just saying, man.
So to give another quick example on how important
I would say how important and necessary this program is for each city and state. You say sometimes police can't reach our communities like that. So this example goes in the situation. Happens in the area. Yeah. It's such a damn thing. Don't go and have, we got a SWAT team coming out there. So we walk around. How long y'all been out here? 4 hours. He ain't coming to the door. So we're gonna use drastic measures. So let me call. We been talking to him. You know, he ain't coming out. All right. Give me 15 minutes. Let me call. You go. You just gonna keep on making more charges. If they come in there, they get you. You got all this, they I work on that. Look at you see me on the street. I agree. Also, don't shoot, come out. You do that. 15 minutes, we got here 4 hours. Yeah. Don't say, how did you do that? Say,
But they don't like my recipe.
You online with him? No?
So some with the Southern Movement Committee and, doing some great work with, the mayor's office here and Tisha Lawless Mitchell has been extremely helpful in that process as well. So we just got the executive order in Nashville passed to start the Office of Youth Safety here, which our structure is separate from the criminal justice system. And one of the things that we've been trying to figure out is how do we gauge our metrics of success? So, you know, ours is a preventative measure, hopefully to prevent things from happening and not directly focused on things that are active. So ideally, you know, the Office of Youth Safety will help reduce youth gun violence. The question I have is like, what are some of the metrics y'all use to gauge success? I saw a decrease in, you know, the homicide rate, a decrease in youth violence in certain areas. Are there any other metrics that y'all are using to identify the success of the program?
Yes, sir. I think that, yeah. We didn't get a chance to talk about it. We got a little excited, but it's actually on that slide. If you go to the prevention measure for us, please, we use evidence-based strategic strategies to implement some of these things. So what we have created, we go back to this slide here. We implement a program in high-risk communities in the school systems where the most violent young people are. I'm gonna give you an example of what I mean by that. So if we look at this, I'm not saying that it's the school, but y'all just follow what I'm saying. We talk about Maplewood, we talk about Pearl Cone, places like that. And we look at both at-risk youth and high-risk youth. How many high-risk youth are in that school that have been untouched? And creating programs to where your program can walk with those particular students. Troy had a phenomenal model that he started back in 2016, where he brought us together, and we were able to go into the schools and go after the high-risk youth. And this is what we discovered. If you walk with youth for 1 hour a week for 52 weeks, you drastically change the narrative of those particular young people. Why? Because they see the consistency more than what they have in their homes. So that's a metric that we have used based off the data that Troy created under the old administration. Another 1 hour, that's it, 1 hour a week for 52 weeks. But every week, 52 weeks. Number two, we look at the crime rate. When I told you to talk about, there's an uptick in crime during the break times. So we plan to make sure that we have safe spaces for young people. How many young people are actually attending these? How many of these young people are hungry? How many young people are we giving services to that actually show up to these events? What can we do from a holistic approach to make sure that they are good? So we created an ecosystem I don't have enough time to talk about it, but we have a few people in the community that we're calling to say, hey, this is the individual, this is what's going on, and we'll be able to have wraparound services to be able to help those particular young people, and that's also a part of our metric. Example, there's a young person, well, two things. Since we've been here today, someone got stabbed today, and I think they bled out and actually passed away since we've been sitting here. That's number one. It happened on Brandon Road at Dollar General a few minutes ago. So my phone was over here going crazy a few minutes ago. So we're already passing out information from our partners to help with this particular situation. Simultaneously going on, a couple weeks ago, a young student, he was involved in a domestic violence situation where he was trying to take care of his mom, got killed at a local high school. So a local partner just reached out to us saying, hey, the mama needs help with, funeral costs, but then can you help us with mental health resources, stuff like that? So we see big cases like that. How many of these can we know about and then bring awareness to the schools, to those particular communities from our standpoint to help the prevention side of it? But then from an intervention standpoint, since it has happened now, how can we step to do that? Another thing, Troy mentioned it earlier, and I'm sure they won't mention it earlier, that they are in juvenile consistency, talking to the light young people. So that's another measure that we use, is actually going out. Now, some of the other things that we've been able to follow is this. That is an economic issue. We all know that crime is an economic issue. So since it's an economic issue, how many young people can we employ through partnerships? So we've been working to get them jobs. We've been going to small businesses, some of the ex-dope boys and hood dudes that have legit businesses now, like, hey, bro, you know what it's like for you? This is what I need you to do for little bro, put them on. Give them an opportunity. And that has helped us and to reduce the crime. So we gotta talk about it. I can't ask you to stop doing what you're doing if I don't give you something that's in your hand. So we're giving them other opportunities. I'm sure what she's talking about, but we were working on a security and an AI piece. I want Montreal to talk about what we're doing with that piece.
Yeah, so with that piece is we're just trying to connect the dots. This is the new way for the future for us. And our young people are in the correct path of cybersecurity and IT because they know. So we're trying to make it cost effective, and we're trying to make it, right at their reach to say, hey, I can do this. So we're providing, just different programs that, hey, you're going to be in front of the computer anyway. May as well learn something about IT and cybersecurity. You're so good at getting around those walls at school to get on social media. Let's use that talent, another way, and to, maybe be a defense for, hacker trying to hack into, the state building or whatever it may be. So we're just trying to provide, income for our young people. And then with that too, we're trying to partner with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee, with their Blue Sky program, is that right? Blue Sky program, which is a satellite campus at ETSU, to where they do a 30-kid cohort every year from graduated high school students, not just in Chattanooga, but across Tennessee. So it's so many opportunities in IT, and we're just trying to get our young people to have access to those opportunities, because we're the ones, our young people that look like you and I, are the ones that are not reaching out for these opportunities, because yes, they don't know what's there, and two, nobody's really talking about it. Well, we're using a lot of low tech strategies versus, those high tech things that are going above our young people's head.
What we seen is, and we call it, as we call it, so we call it resources. What we seen is the resources, opportunity, and exposure. Me and Chris, 2016, we took a game. We had about 50 gang members that we took them to Alabama A&M. Took them to Alabama A&M for a football game. And I'll never forget, man. Never seen so many people who look like me doing so many great things. And on the way back, man, they were so quiet. They didn't say anything. And I remember saying, man, this is the greatest trip that I've had. In that group, we had two big time gang members. Godfather was one, and another guy that I can't remember his name right now, Ed. These guys were they had a gang of songs in and out of the and they let them to school with me and Chris had a really good relationship. They came straight home from the trip. Godfather got straight and went right in the Navy. He been in California ever since. Everyone came home straight from the trip and got in construction. Now he's building homes and selling Frenchies. But guys, they got to see something different. Resources, opportunity, and exposure. At Red Bank High School, we go to Red Bank, and what we do pitches. Because like you said, everybody ain't going to college, but relationships occurring. So we got them doing pitches, and now they going on to type of people and getting information. So you gotta really outside the loop. You gotta add value every day. Babysitting and all that stuff, that's over with. How do you add value so that he can go on and make it? Like we're saying, my trust said, it's economics. Crime is economics. Gotta put some money in his pocket.
First of all, I want to thank you all for your work because I am invested because I spent 2 years in Hamilton County and, I do know firsthand, I know about the Fist Bump Friday, I know about the Darius Price work, because those are my schools. So while I was there, my part was any suspension had to come to me. And I would always say, okay, tell me the story. What's the child's story and what happened? Because as you said, it's an antecedent. Kids don't come to school saying, I just want, something is happening and we need to know the story. And so while I was there, suspensions were down, attendance was up, but that was because I wanted to make sure they saw the young people as I see them. Because people treat you how they see you. And so I saw those young people as potential field, not. And so I want to encourage you all just to continue to use your voice and your experience because you never know, you may be in a place that you never expected you would be. And so for me, I'm a person with 4 nieces. You know, I grew up in here. Dad was on drugs, in and out of jail, cousins pregnant at 15, 16. But I had a champion, my mother, who made it different, showed me education is where you need to be. But then I'm intentionally in places where young girls can see me and say, okay, you grew up where I grew up. I can be in the mayor's office. I can be little Watisha at the table, helping people to see the perspective of those people they never met or never even see. And so I just want to continue to urge you to keep doing what you're doing. It's very important. And everybody in this room, the importance of your voice. Your voice can either spread the news about the great things that's going on, bring light to something that people may not be able to connect with, and speak life into young people. Because you have to change how they see themselves.
You have a question in chat. So Jerry, who is one of our TCCY staff members, is asking, since prevention was mentioned, she's wondering if TBI is handled with care. It ever takes place when younger children in the home have witnessed violence in the home or community. Do you guys work at all with the Handle with Care program?
Is that the restraining or something?
The Handle with Care. The school is notified that something has happened, but doesn't know, the details, but knows to kind of handle that child with care because there's been something that's happened.
And it was, I remember it came to me, started doing a TV show. I had these 4 young adults, young men that were strapped. And one played basketball. I remember him saying that they don't have, whenever you see a mass shooting go on in these different communities, they always talk the like people come to talk to them, they have people to talk to. And I was like, and I never thought about that. We just learn how to deal with it. We just go along. And he said, what made him think about that was because the next day, one of his friends got killed that was in his class. Then the next day, he had to go to school, and that seat is sitting right there and it's empty. And that empty seat, 24 hours ago, his friend was sitting there. But then there's nobody for him to talk to. So what do we do about the mental health and try to recognize and try to, like, what do you, I don't even know how you fix it.
So the first question first, no, we're not currently, working with them. We're working to build that partnership out. We just had a meeting on um, Tuesday with even Child Advocacy Center to figure out what would that look like once they, get information from outside sources from a school and things of that nature, and how does that play into the work that we do? So we're in the process of having meetings around, that particular question. So we have a tour coming up, to the Child Advocacy Center in the next week or so, and we're gonna work on that piece that was there for that particular question. To your point, that you said, sir, one of the things that we're in the process of working on is this. We have, people that's on our team that couldn't make it today that's dealing with grief, that's dealing with trauma. And, our whole team is about to get certified in adult mental health first aid as well as youth mental health first aid. So, that's gonna be a part of our workshop training for, January 2025 to make sure that we can even see and diagnose what level certain people are on, so that we can say, hey, this is out of our scope, but we have someone in our ecosystem that look like you, that can represent this work, that can come and talk to you about, hey, my friend was just here 24 hours ago, because that literally happened in our city not too long ago. So what we did was we shut down regular work day and had different people go into the school just to listen to those young people. And I have nothing wrong. I'm not saying anything negatively about mental health advocates who do the work and things of that nature, but we need people who are going to be sympathetic and empathetic to go into it and actually listen before they make a diagnosis on whatever is going on with that young person, so that they can deal in real time issues about the trauma that they just experienced. So we're in the process of working on that as well, even more. So those are just a few things that we're doing. And then also, we've been engaging with the faith community, say, hey, we need help. We need help. I know there's somebody here that can offer some free services that attend your church, your parish, or if you are the rector or pastor or bishop, apostle, wherever you may be, imam, what have you, that can speak to this particular situation and walk with them. We have a great community partner. They're called Community Haven, and they are Muslim brothers and sisters that have come alongside us to help us with some of these things that you just spoke of as well, sir.
Any other questions? Wonderful. Thank you all for that. Would like to provide some space for those of our partners who are doing either direct work with young people or doing work around youth justice work. And it doesn't even have to be youth justice work, but working with young people and families that would like to report out on some of the things that you're doing. Mike.
Yeah, Mike Fox again with the Southern Movement Committee. So one of the things our organization does, we have two programs. One's the Black National Assembly, where we bring Black community members together to talk about their issues, discuss solutions, and turn those solutions into action steps. Those solutions are targeted towards a campaign surrounding the city budget every year, because we know, if you want to understand how things work, follow the money. So we do that with the Black National Assembly. Those are mostly adults. And we have a youth assembly. So we have a paid internship program currently with about 45 students between the ages of 14 and 26. So we have an 18 and 26 group, and we have a 14 to 18 group, where they learn a community organizing curriculum on how they can affect change in their neighborhoods and their schools. And we hold assemblies. They held a town hall recently about the Office of Youth Safety that's coming to us and getting launched, and will be up and running in 2025. So the Office of Youth Safety was born out of their leadership, high school students' leadership, and their ability to talk about what they need and what they think safety looks like for them. And that leadership created a campaign called the Varsity Spending Plan that made a lot of waves here in Nashville and began to make waves nationally about what young folks can do with their usage of democracy and engagement in the political process in order to shift their realities and help prevent gun violence with their peers. So that's what our organization does. And I would love to connect with y'all more after this year.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Anybody else?
Hi. Hi, good afternoon. This is Ashley Sellers with Rafah Institute. We have two initiatives. We have a diversion out of juvenile court serving both people who have been harmed and young people, ages 12 to 17 in felony harm from home burglary up to homicide, but being held in community instead of in the court system. We're expanding into adult court in Davidson County for 18 to 26-year-olds. And then we have an early education initiative in our low income communities to be able to help young people have good, high quality early education before they go into kindergarten, and to help individuals in that community be able to recognize entrepreneurship and get license and pedagogy coaching so that they can be able to get paid while they're making that difference in their community. And same, I would love to connect with y'all more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Okay.
Any other questions? That kind of freaked me out.
I'll give a brief.
Oh, not questions. Thank you for helping me.
I'll give a brief, sort of update on our work. I'm Zoe Jamel with Disability Rights of Tennessee, and a lot of the work that we do is monitoring juvenile detention centers and other youth justice facilities. And I was really interested to hear about your work on Fridays and JDCs and how the staff there have latched on to the violence interrupters who are doing work in there. I would love to talk more about what that experience has been like for you guys, because I think we see a lot of issues between staff and young people in so many of the facilities that we're in. And a lot of times that's a lack of staff training. And so there's so much knowledge that y'all, I'm sure, impart on staff in terms of how to interact with young people. And so I'm really interested in how that experience has gone for y'all. I'd love to hear more.
So,
Either way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sound big, real quick, the relationships. These are juveniles, and we're from their neighborhood, in the city of Chattanooga. Like we said, this is a saying that they say, ain't no cap. We not cap. We not. Yeah, you say like he was a gang leader, was a well-known, detail, but yeah. So they know us. These are juveniles, so we know. So that's one. It's all about respect too. So that, like you said, maybe lack of training or something like that. But we get them to understand that you already messed up. You keep messing up, it ain't go. I mean, their correction officer going home at the end of the day. You still gonna be here. You feel what I'm saying? So, and we are said that. Teach you how to sit.
I'm really from the question. Going up in a home experience for me, from a standpoint, like I said, I was a leader of a gang, and the kid, like we said, it's a repetitive cycle. They see certain things, they do certain things. I ain't told them this, but 6 of the 9 kids that's in them, I was their dad and leader. So I feel like I messed up a situation that I'm not trying to fix. So when I reached out to the fathers of those kids, the fact that they told their kids, hey man, that's a real dude that walked the life, they can tell you about that you're trying to get away from, so listen to him. So they have actually reached out, and the security guards done told us that they're actually thinking about before they do things and things of that sort. So like they said, the relationship of them getting the reassurance that they can trust what we're saying has been very positive. Been very positive. So my wrongdoing kind of relatability go a long way.
And like you said, one thing that we do is everything that we do, and you start under something, man, make sure that you're consistent. And so from every Friday from 9:30 to 11:30, our guys are back there. So they have no phone. They're back there just pouring into those young people. And I want to give you guys updates, because a lot of times, man, we get a great talk. But like I said, in Chattanooga, man, like we're really, really busy. We really do a lot. And so January 30th, we can do a pilot, a juvenile resource day. And so every kid that's in juvenile, on juvenile, whoever coming through them doors, we're gonna have some at the library. Another great partnership, Chris and Travis them kind of got. So we're using the downtown library to have a resource day for juvenile kids and their parents. So jobs, resources, whatever you need. Like we say, man, somebody just doing something because of a situation. We love you guys to come down with our food. It'll be a great situation. February 27th, we do our job fair. We do a job fair every 3 months. And it's a felon-friendly job fair. Like I said, justice involved. So it's a justice involved job. So you can come in, you've had a record, it really don't matter. You got you. The people that you advocated for, they already know that our guys have situations. We average over 200 people every time we do that. We gotta get a little bit better on. The problem we're having is sometimes the job take a couple of weeks. They can got these jobs yesterday. So we're working on getting vendors that can hire. Like, so that's going to be February 27th. You know, 7. The only people in the country that has to do juvenile. It's a juvenile. 7 from 6 to 8 o'clock at the downtown. You guys are. Is so we do is we bring in the kids who are on active probation. What we're doing on January 30th, so anyway, kids are active. We have to some of them on last chance, some of them have to get sent off, some of them have to check in with their probation officers. So we do an actual program. And now this program, we do bring in the police department, we bring in the marshal, we bring in the brass on the other side, because we do want to let them know what's going on. Bring in the DAs. We do bring in a voice of pain. Voice of pain is somebody who's been killed. So it's like a mom will come in, she lost her son, she'll come talk to you guys. And so we usually bring in that side. So it's a really nice program as well. And so we do that once every quarter as well. And so that's going to be March 27th from 6 to 8 at the downtown library. Guys, please come and hang out and just kind of see how we're doing things and bring it back here and start it. We won't.
We partnered with a group called CWS, and it's the tech piece. The goal is to make sure that if a young person, we had a young man say, hey, how much would it cost you to stop, selling drugs, who was 12 years old? He said, man, I need at least $1,600 a month. So we was like, all right, cool. We partnered with the tech company, and the goal is to allow that young person to make $425 in a day or every 2 days. So we're going to do a 16-week program with that particular young person, and we're going to give them the soft skills needed so they can come out making anywhere roughly about $40,000, and then also go for their parents as well. That starts January the 25th, and it'll be a 16-week course with them, have a certification and all that good stuff. And that goes up to age 24 right now. And then we'll go with the next cohort, which will be the parents, and that'll run through the summer. And by September the 7th, they'll be able to go into the same field with their young person in cybersecurity or AI, making the same amount so we can help with the economic piece in that particular household.
Amazing. Anybody else?
Like this young man right here, stabbed same year. So the PPAC start. You feel what I'm saying? And that's what we don't understand. It's a lot of these youth out here that ain't thinking about the future because it's just 24, every 24, the next 24, the next 24. And I say that to say that now to be called. You feel what I'm saying? Like it's so magical. I'm talking about that's the stuff like I told you. This right here made me shout. Shout. It comes from the church. You know that is like and just scream out. But you're just so happy. And it's because this right here is so powerful. It's powerful. Because there's so many kids that's like I was. Or probably like if he got shot at the gun. We was wild. And then he got shot and still was wilding. You feel what I'm saying? And still, and man, to hear them words, pop, never thought you were gonna live to be 56 years old. You feel what I'm saying? Never thought that. And so now I just wanna, like, go back and help our community, like my man said, same way. I get shot, stabbed, I became a shooter. So when I went over there, shoot, that's a mind. But at the same time, my mom could put me out there where sometimes I went to school. She would drive me, she would go to school like, I'm like, I had no coming from my partners. Tell you what you do, man. This how you learn about women and all that stuff from your partner. We didn't have like, social media. We teaching each other how to mess up. Teach each other like, but we really teach each other how to mess up. And then you got people around, if they ain't doing what they say, misery, love, come. Man, you gotta watch the people you hang with, all that, and I'm leaving that consistency word. Because a guy told me that I mentored, and he said, you know what I like about you, Mr. Redden? When you say you're gonna show up, you show up. He said, there's so many people who done told me, and they look at he see them on the news and everything. But when they say they gonna come, they don't show up. So now they don't wanna hear from them the next time.
Right. So what you just said, that's part, same thing with the name is, it's a double meaning. You were bound by those chains. They chain that loop that keep on, that feel you, them links like that. That's why, that's the double meaning with the chain. 4, 2, 3 in that area. So we start with asking. Sound like I need a 615.
People that will show up, like if I say, hey, you ready to come back next month? Then go. I'm gonna do my part, make sure I got some people that look like me and that I mean, I didn't look on that thing. It's a white guy that was my best friend in my neighborhood. It wasn't about your it was about where you was from and what you were going through. Because see, we 37208. You feel what I'm saying? Here in Nashville, which is the #1 in the country for most people that get arrested and everything. 37208 right here in Nashville, Tennessee. You feel what I'm saying? And so it's good to hear this because here we are, we want to do something. Why am I here? I had a one with this young lady and she invited me to this. Because it had to be something I said to her that she's like, hey, you need to be there. Or it could have been a higher power that said, hey, he needs to be there. I give him credit. I'm gonna give him praise every time. You feel what I'm saying? Because that's from where my help. When you feel like I'm ready to give up sometimes, man, I mean, just, it ain't nothing but God. So, leave it right there. But no.
I appreciate all of that. We're gonna close with reflection. I mentioned earlier. It's good to have heard everything that we've heard, but if we walk away and leave all of that in this beautiful space, then we've done nothing, right? And so these are just some little things that get us thinking. Not asking to answer all of those. You might want to just pick one. But what inspired you about what you heard today? Made you think? How did the presentation make you feel in your heart? What impacted you the most? What did you learn that you can apply? What challenged you? You don't do. So it's that head, heart, feet kind of thing. Like, what do you think about what you heard? How did what you heard hear make you feel emotionally, right? And then what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with your feet when you leave here? Are you gonna do something different, right? What are the things based on all that we've shared, what are the things you're gonna stop doing? Because sometimes we're doing things that are detrimental to young people, right? Kind of gets at Zoe's question, you know, what's happening in those detention facilities and other placements our young people are in, where they're bumping heads with adults in those spaces. Sometimes it's training. Sometimes we're barking back because they're barking. We're cussing because they're cussing. What are the things we're gonna stop doing? What are the things that we need to keep doing? Some stuff we're doing is working, right? We're building bridges and we're impacting positively with young people. So let's keep doing those things. Kind of that stoplight thing. What are some things we need to take a pause and breathe about and try to figure out which way do I go? But I really want us, we've heard too much goodness to walk away and be like, man, that was good. Show good, sound good. Right? Maybe feel good in the moment. Have some good food and some good drinks. And boy, we've met some new people. But what can we do differently about those young people that are in spaces that could potentially lead them to incarceration? And we didn't do a lot of talking about this, but one of the things that we know well is that young people do not belong in adult spaces. They just talk about mental health. Because what happens now, if a young person is in an adult facility, they have to be sight and sound separated from adults, which means they're in solitary. Right? They're in solitary. And it's equally true for young people. It is for adults. Solitary is not good for anybody's mental health. What are the things that we can walk away today saying, we can do this? I like that 615. That's some folks in the might be on the ground level of building that thing up. Like, what about online? We got folks in Memphis and Johnson City, and we know that every area of our state is different, right? It's different. Over in East Tennessee, we might have a little more spaces where gun violence may not be a big thing with young people. Memphis and our urban centers, so Memphis and Nashville and Chattanooga and Knoxville, a little more. But where can we do today to move the needle, to change the narrative, to keep hope alive, to get proximate with, to support young people? Y'all have sat with that as I kept talking intentionally. Y'all have sat with that. Y'all have been looking at those questions. Who wants to take one? Are we just reflecting? We're leading on this. This is our marching orders, and there are no right or wrong answers. But what is it, as we think about all that we've heard from our partners, what is it that you feel individually that you can do differently? And maybe not so much differently, but these are just there to help you. What do you walk away space with?
When my folks were at home, then we're at home. Thought the police trying to the trail to get what I made them, to call y'all made them. Starts out on the same burgers and they us not like we try to say that way. I would talk to my supervisor, it was Chris and Montreal, Miss Dale and Troy on our van ride home to get our mayor to talk to the mayor from y'all surrounding areas, and us in the 423 chain breakers trained a group of I wanted to say guys, women and women from y'all area. Bring each other to Nashville, to Memphis, to Johnson City, to Jackson, to to the surrounding area. We'd like to be a service to that start. That's my challenge.
I like it. I like it, Ricky. Thank you.
TV show I've been to Memphis and I've interviewed Paul Young. I've done some stuff here with Craig O'Connell. You know what I mean? So it's like these different, matter of fact, in Knoxville just 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I was down there and she was attended the mayor, so lady mayor there. And so through the, you know, I mean, and I feel like it's something happening. I keep on saying, Lord, what is he doing, Jesus? What is he doing? And he's connecting the dots for a reason. Because this has got to be more than just your community, my community. It's got to be a statewide initiative. Right. You feel what I'm saying? And then be able to come together, and the next time you come together, we have a 6-1 or not even a chain, what's it called? Chain, right? Yeah, an event for that. From 901, 615, 423, 865. You feel what I'm saying? That's the whole state. 931. All that. And that feel like it's something that's a challenge. I feel it. And that's what it is.
Highlighting the importance of funding.
Thanks, Corey. Richard?
I'm too, like Corey, I was thinking about, what we can do now. And hearing Ms. Stover's comment about the funding, you know, in my checking account, $1.9 million will never happen. But in the state's checking account, $1.9 million, we would save those dollars in other spaces. And so I just kind of was thinking about with our youth justice work, with conversations with legislators that we have, when they ask about alternatives to, you know, transferring kids to adult courts and things like this, this is a very concrete example that we can say, look at this program that's happening in Chattanooga. And selfishly, those of you in Chattanooga, Senator Bo Watson is one of the most powerful men in the legislature and controls the Senate Finance Ways and Means Committee. So if not, I sound like somebody's daddy boss now, but if you guys haven't talked with Senator Watson and invited him to come see what you guys do, I would say come spend a day with us so you can see this in action, because that's where we can get the money, not only for Chattanooga, but for Memphis and Nashville and Jackson and the other cities that are dealing with some of the same things. So I think from our perspective, it's how can we raise awareness about the success of the program? How can we help with funding from ways that you guys may not have gotten before? But then in our role as conveners, how do we hold space for you guys to be in the same room with leaders from Nashville and Chattanooga and across the state to share kind of successes, challenges, frustration, heartache, all of the things that come along with this work.
That's good, Richard. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online with you? Nope. Not gonna keep asking y'all. My phone is doing weird things. We're right on time, 2:58. Let me say a great, and well, Richard, I don't know if you want to say parting words, but okay, let me do this. So we are looking at, these are some potential dates, and that word potential is real. As I mentioned earlier, if you're new to this with us, we meet quarterly. We start our meetings in February, so it's February, May, August, should be December. Sometimes December gets a little tricky. So somewhere November, December. So these are proposed dates. We like this hybrid model that we've started this year because it allows people to join us from Memphis and Johnson City at the same time online. So we probably are going to keep the hybrid model. What our team is discussing now is whether we keep our time from 12 to 3 or we move it back to a morning time. And so be on the lookout for a survey that's going to ask you a few questions about what time is best for you. And we'll take a look at that as we move into 2025. But these are just potential dates. As soon as we lock those down and lock a place down. So we are here in the library, just FYI. The place that we have been in all year, they sent an email to say they're doing some renovations. And so they kicked us out for today's meeting. Not really, but they did. So that's why we're here. We know that here parking might be an issue. The first hour and a half at this space is free, but after that, every 30 minutes is $3, I believe. So $6, $9, maybe $12. And so we want to be cognizant of that. And we were torn. I was really torn about not wanting people to pay for parking, but we were between a rock and a hard place. If parking's not an issue and y'all like this place, it's a beautiful space. We'll talk about that. But so right now we're looking for a place to be. And our team doesn't want to be here this month and somewhere else the next month and somewhere else. So we're trying to find a home that we can live in. So we're working on that. And as soon as we get a spot and official dates, we'll send that out to you all, as always. But we're so grateful that you all took the time to come and share with us at our last meeting this year. Really grateful for our Chattanooga partners. I tell you, I've been beaming since September. I think we made contact in September. And just hearing about the work that they've been doing down there was just so exciting. And I'm glad they had a chance to come and to share with us. And we're looking forward to the partnerships and the next steps and Breaking Chains Conference is what I thought I heard. We're gonna do some big things as we move across the state. And so super excited for each of you for joining us. And we look forward to you being able to connect with us again now that you're here and we have email addresses and that kind of thing. You'll always be on our list. So you might get tired of us sending you emails every quarter, but you'll get what we're doing. And please send us those dates that you talked about. I would love to be able to come down and maybe others to see how you all are doing that stuff, boots on the ground. As Richard said earlier, for those of you as we head into these holidays, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, we hope that you have a really good break. Safe travels for our Chattanooga partners as you head back. And last but not least, that's our team, y'all. But we want you to, that's me, that's my contact info. But this is the most important part. Please talk about technology. Got your cell phone out. You can point your cell phone to this. I hope it works. You should be able to point your cell phone to this. And it should pull up a survey for you. We want you to answer those questions for us because it helps us to plan for future meetings. It helps us to know, did we do a good job? Was this relevant for people? Or should we go back to the drawing board? For those of us online, I know we had trouble with that before, so I don't know if they can see it online. Okay. So do that for us. Please be super honest and upfront. And if it was the bomb, tell us that. If it was like trash, tell us that. Nobody's gonna say that. But let us know. And there's one question on there that talks about what are some topics that we could talk about moving forward with young people? And so if there are things that you're thinking about that you believe that we need to be to the forefront of youth issues, please let us know that. And then
Yes. To have parking tickets, you have to get it validated.
Thank you, Richard.
Desk, so you get that hour back.
yes, thank you. So, yeah, I felt like it's something, but it's gone. So let us go. Be well. Thank you again for being here. Safe travels, and we look forward to connecting in the future. You got to be big cat. Everybody is so if I get a picture. So, It's basically the guy right now.
Seven.